Before Craig Hagin's own father stood up in front of the congregation and said his son was fired, Craig Hagin had already lost access to everything. Every account, every system, every login tied to the ministry he'd worked inside for decades. The one his grandfather founded, his father runs, and he was supposed to help manage. Gone. And according to Rhema Bible Church's own statement, that happened before anyone in the church was told why. Think about the order of events here. Not we found something, we told the church, then we locked him out. It was lock him out first, cut every wire, make sure he couldn't touch a single dollar or system, and only after that was done, tell the congregation. That's not how you treat someone you're still deciding about. That's how you treat someone you've already decided about and are worried what they might do if they still have access. In this video, we're going deeper into the financial side of this story, what Craig Hagin actually controlled inside this ministry, what removing access to all organizational systems, accounts, and ministry platforms really means in practice, and why the order of operations here tells you almost everything you need to know about how seriously the church took this. Here's where we're going. First, I'll break down exactly what role Craig Hagin held inside this ministry, because Chief Operating Officer of a ministry like this isn't just a title, it's operational control over how money moves. Then we'll look at the language Rhema used in their statement, line by line, because the specific words they chose, faithful stewardship, internal safeguards, are the kind of language organizations use when they're worried about something very specific. Then, the timeline, because when you line up the animal cruelty arrest in March, the divorce announcement in May, and the access being cut before the firing was even announced in June, a pattern starts to show up. And by the end, I want you to think about what it actually means when an institution moves faster, not when someone breaks the law, but when someone still has the keys. Let's get into it. So let's be precise about what we're talking about, because he worked at the church massively undersells this. Craig Hagin served as Chief Operating Officer of Rhema Bible Church, not a volunteer role, not an honorary title because of his last name, although let's be honest, the last name didn't hurt. The COO of an organization like this is the person responsible for how the place actually runs day to day. Operations, staffing, often financial oversight, or close coordination with whoever handles the books. On top of that, he was a co-pastor, meaning he had a public-facing role too, teaching and preaching to the congregation. And he taught at Rhema Bible Training College, the school his grandfather built that has trained over 16,000 ministers. So this is a person who for years had his hands on 3 different levers at once: the operational and financial side of the ministry, the teaching and formation of new ministers, and direct access to the congregation as a co-pastor. That's not a job, that's infrastructure. If you wanted to understand how this organization actually functions, where the money goes, how decisions get made, who has access to what, Craig Hagin was one of a small handful of people who could answer that. Now here's the thing about roles like that. They don't come with an easy off switch. If you're the COO of a place like this, you don't just have a login, you have logins, plural. Banking platforms, donor management systems, internal communications, building access systems, payroll. The kind of access that, if you suddenly didn't trust the person who had it, you couldn't just take away with one click. You'd have to go through every single system, one at a time, and lock it down. And according to Rhema's own statement, that's exactly what they did before announcing anything publicly. But it's not just that they did it, it's how they described doing it. And if you read their statement closely, word by word, it tells you something they probably didn't intend to reveal. Let's look at the actual language Rhema used, because in situations like this, organizations choose their words extremely carefully, usually with lawyers in the room. And careful language often reveals more than it hides. Here's the key line. As part of our responsibility to exercise faithful stewardship and maintain appropriate internal safeguards, Rhema has removed Craig's access to all organizational systems, accounts, and ministry platforms. Faithful stewardship, internal safeguards. These are financial accountability terms. This isn't the language you'd use if the concern was, say, a personal moral failing that had nothing to do with the organization's operations. If someone's personal conduct was the entire issue and had zero connection to money, systems, or organizational risk, you wouldn't frame the response in terms of stewardship and safeguards. You'd frame it in terms of pastoral care, discipline, restoration, words the church also used, by the way. We continue to pray for repentance, healing, and restoration. So notice they used both kinds of language. The personal, pastoral language, Craig remains a member of our family, we pray for restoration, and the institutional risk management language, stewardship, safeguards, removed access to all systems, accounts, and platforms. That's two different concerns addressed in the same statement. One is about Craig as a person and as family. The other is about Craig as someone who, until very recently, had operational access to how this ministry runs. And here's the detail that I think matters most. The statement says the access was removed as part of our responsibility to maintain those safeguards, present tense, ongoing responsibility. Not that we removed his access because of what we found. It's framed as a standard, responsible action any organization should take when someone in this kind of role departs under these circumstances, regardless of what the specific misconduct was.
In other words, even if we set aside whatever the credible information was that they're not disclosing, the mere fact that someone with this level of access was being removed on this kind of timeline triggered an automatic institutional response. Lock everything down first, figure out the narrative second. That's not necessarily sinister. Honestly, from a pure risk management standpoint, it's the textbook correct response. If you're an organization and you're about to tell someone you no longer work here, effective immediately, for reasons we're not going to specify, the single most important thing to do before that conversation happens is make sure that person can't log into anything. Because the moment they know it's coming, you've lost your window. So the sequence makes sense operationally, but it also tells you something about how the organization was thinking about Craig Hagin in that final week. Not as our brother who's going through something, as a security risk that needed to be neutralized first. And when you put that timeline next to the other events from this spring, the arrest, the divorce, a pattern starts to emerge. One that suggests this wasn't a sudden decision at all. Let's lay out the full timeline, because the order of events here matters more than any single piece of it. March 2026, Craig and Mia Hagin are arrested on animal cruelty complaints after authorities remove 25 cats and dogs from their South Tulsa home. The church responds quickly. Craig is placed on sabbatical, not fired, sabbatical, a pause. The kind of word that implies we expect this person to come back. April 2026, Mia Hagin pleads non-contest. Her charges are reduced to a misdemeanor, disturbing the peace, a fine and mandated animal rehabilitation classes. From the outside, this looks like the story winding down, a bad situation handled, moving towards resolution. May 21st, and this date matters, Mia Hagin posts on social media that she and Craig are divorcing after 20 years of marriage, and she posts it on their actual wedding anniversary. Her statement doesn't go into detail, but it's emotionally raw. She describes it feeling like a death. Now, here's the gap I want you to sit with. From mid-April, when Mia's charges were resolved, to early June, about 6 weeks, Craig Hagin is still on sabbatical, still presumably technically affiliated with the ministry, even if not actively working. still, presumably, still having some level of access to ministry systems because nothing has been announced removing it. Then, in the church's own words, within the past week, our leadership team became aware of separate and credible information regarding conduct inconsistent with the standards expected of those serving in ministry leadership. Within the past week, meaning this new information came to leadership sometime in late May or early June, right around the same window as the divorce announcement. And the response, once that information arrived, was fast. Access cut, employment ended. Then on June 3rd, 4 days later, the public announcement to the congregation. So here's the pattern. As long as the issue was the animal cruelty case, something external, something law enforcement was already handling, the church's posture was patient, sabbatical, wait and see, let the legal process play out. But the moment new information arrived, information serious enough that the church felt it couldn't wait for any process, legal or otherwise, the response time collapsed from months to days. Access cut, employment ended, announcement made, all within roughly a week.
That tells you something about the difference between these two situations, even without knowing exactly what the separate information was. The animal cruelty case was something the church could observe, statement on, and let the courts handle at their own pace, because Craig wasn't going anywhere. The courts had it. But whatever came in late May was something the church evidently believed required immediate removal of access and authority, not next month, not after due process, immediately. When an institution moves that fast, it's usually because someone internally said, "This can't wait until Monday." So what does all of this actually tell us about Craig Hagin, about this family, and how power and money work inside ministries like this one? Let's pull it together. Here's the bigger picture. For most of his adult life, Craig Hagin wasn't just a guy with a job at his family's church. He was wired into the financial and operational infrastructure of a ministry that for 50 years has run on trust, donor trust, congregant trust, and trust between family members who all had each other's backs. That kind of access is normally a sign of how much a family trusts its own kind. You don't hand someone the keys to your accounts, your systems, your platforms, plural, unless you believe to your core that they're on your side and always will be. And what we watched happen over about 10 weeks in 2026 was that trust getting revoked, not gradually, not with a long transition period, all at once, and by the church's own description, before the public even knew there was a reason to revoke it. That's the real headline here, more than any single allegation. A family that has run this ministry for 50 years has reached a point where they decided that a member of their own family, someone with deep structural access to how the whole thing operates, could not be trusted with that access for one more day. Not until lawyers reviewed it, not until the board met next month. Today, now, lock it down. Whatever the separate and credible information turns out to be, and we may never get the full picture because the church has been clear they don't intend to share more, the speed and order of the response is its own kind of statement. It tells the congregation and tells us that whatever this was, it cleared a bar that the animal cruelty arrest on its own hadn't cleared, not even close. And for an institution built on the idea that this family's name means trustworthiness, that's a hard thing to have to demonstrate in public, no matter how it's worded.